Oh my God!
Yeah, that was awesome.
Thank you so much. So we had a special guest performance tonight. We normally open up with a crazy video, but this week we're privileged to have my friend Pacha playing. That always takes me to the edge. We have a really great group that gets together on Friday mornings, and Pacha plays every day, every Friday, and every one of them is just like this crazy individual, it's a painting every time. It's not like this repeated piece of sheet music that plays. It's like every one of them's different. It picks up off the wave of the energy of the moment and the collection of the people that were there. I feel really privileged.
Yeah, it's so cool to be able to do this virtually.
And David, our special guest, David Mumm, bioenergetic wizard, is our special guest for the last half of the show tonight. And super excited to have him there. And he's part of our meditation group. So Prata and Pratiti showed up to lend their support.
Nice. Yeah, I'm going to put you backstage for now, Prata, and we will talk to you in a little bit.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Hey, Prata, load up your website. Prata's doing a really killer YouTube channel with aliens and all kinds of really crazy, cool.
Oh, what's the website? I'll make a banner for the bottom of the screen.
Please.
In search of here and now.
What is it?
In search of here and now.
In search of here and now. All right, I'll make a banner, and we'll see you in a little bit.
Okay. Thanks a lot, you guys.
Wow, that was awesome.
Wow. Beyond, it's it's a really, really crazy energy wave that he builds, and I'm usually so I'm a musician, so I'm looking for patterns and repeating and timings, and it's so antithetical to all of that.
Totally. But there's such a beauty to it, and I think specifically the Tibetan bowls, the frequency that it produces. I can still remember the very first time I ever experienced it. It's like it comes from inside you. It comes from all around. It's
the cool thing about those things is that real ones that are made the real way, there's a couple of layers. I mean, there's a 5 metal one and a 7 metal one, and each one of those metals goes into there and vibrates at a different frequency.
Wow.
So that as you're hitting the root note, you've got all these overtones over the top of it that are just making these crazy harmonies.
So amazing. It's so amazing.
And, yeah, really take you over the edge.
It definitely, like I said, the first time I heard it, it was like experiencing sound in a different way, that I had never experienced it before. I mean, I guess
you ever gotten to play them yourself?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing.
Have you ever done the crystal bowls?
Crystal bowls as well. Yeah.
The big ones? A big one by any chance?
Not a huge one, but probably like a medium size,
Yeah, I had an 18-inch
Oh wow.
F. It was a heart chakra one now.
Wow.
The day that broke, my heart broke. Oh my goodness. But the wave that created as you were standing, I'd love to stand over it as I was making that happen, right?
Crazy.
Massive, with that columnar.
I could imagine it move the air, I bet.
Oh, wow. Really, really, really crazy. And I love filling them up with water and watching the patterns that happen on the surface. It's kind of like its own weird little cymatic.
Amazing. Yeah, cymatic light show.
So how's your week, Mr. Zen?
My week has been pretty crazy. Life is pretty crazy. And I'm happy to be equipped to
Oh,
remain sane while the world crumbles around.
Why did you think you were ever sane to begin with?
Well, I mean, at least feel. Yeah, maybe sane wasn't the right word.
No, I don't think so.
but happy is the right word.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. How about you? How was your week? How you doing?
As you can tell, I've got a little remnants of a bug I got last week.
Oh yeah, wow.
Kind of was house sitting and dog sitting for Leah, and she had taken her daughter out to Colorado to visit their roots. And I kind of like just checked out of the world for a little while. You know, all my computers, everything were up here. I was going to try to like schlep everything down there or go back and forth, but not really. So I just decided to like cave into the moment. I got the weird little buggy thing, man, and decided to like just ride it on out and go through that and not try to press myself about it. And towards the end of the week, I got out my Bardon book again and did a review, you know, and I went through the first 4 chapters again and like did all the exercises, and man, every time you do that and go back around and like you realize how much you built on that.
Yeah, you're not the same person as you did it last time, you know.
Yeah, really, really crazy. Totally. And you know, I was talking to somebody about that today. It's one of those books, you know, that's why everybody, you know, has their what's the one book you'd take to the desert island? Well, that would be mine, because
there you go.
You never run out of it being a vehicle to more information on a deeper level.
Well, it says something about wanting to go back and read a book again, right? I mean,
well, I've been through that whole book like 5 times.
Yeah,
and
well, that says something even more.
Through the first part about with the meditation methodology, which after all the thousands of ways to meditate that I've like been through over decades, those just continue to be just the most, I think that in my opinion, they're perfect. That's perfect methodology to actually get to, from just observing your thoughts to actually getting to blank space and the clues and, you know, things to actually get there. That was the thing, that was the methodology that I was finally successful. I had tried that a number of times before, always gave up. So we're on the 7s this week, man.
Yes, indeed. We are. You want me to read the 7 of Cups?
Yeah, you know, it'd be really cool if you could bring that like that graphic up for that page. Do you have that by any chance?
The graphic for
I sent you the folder with all. Yeah, I sent you the folder with all of those.
Yeah, I do have them.
It'd be cool if they could read along.
Okay. Hold on a second. Let's see if I could do that. We could start that as a new tradition. Hold on. Just got to get the right folder here.
Always a way to refine, you know?
Well, I have no problem with that. I think it's great.
And you know what, dude? I realized this the other day. August 22nd was our anniversary.
Like, oh yeah, you were saying. I think you were
a whole year, man.
Oh, you were saying that. Oh, here it is. Look at that. Yeah, I think you were saying that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
all right,
we'll have to figure out something special for our anniversary.
Let me share this, and we're going with the 7 of Cups here. Probably have to make that a little bigger for people.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. 7 of Cups. The daydream card, filled with fantasies and illusion. There's too many cups. The choices abound. In fact, there are too many. All of them interest you. The real difficulty is deciding which becomes so convoluted you end up not deciding at all. Discerning between what is real and what is fantasy. What has a real chance or is wishful thinking or an empty dream devoid of substance. Not being able to decide leads to confusion and ultimate disillusionment. Disillusionment. It is the place where you give up hope and throw it all away. In extremes, it could lead to such a dark place. There are thoughts of ending it all. You have to be proactive, not reactive. You have to take the tangible steps you know you need to do. Evaluate your positive objectively as if it was someone else's life. Step out of your emotions and formulate a real plan. Foremost, you need to decide. It's the first step to freedom. There you go. Well, that definitely describes my weekend.
Yeah,
for sure.
I kind of think that sort of like talks about that reading we did for you at the end of the show last week. Too.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does.
Why don't you bring up that? Why don't you bring up the card?
Yes, indeed. There we go. You
know, this is a pretty crazy card as you get into it. and it has so many layers to this, and that's what this card is all about. It's about like looking at all of these things that look like choices, and they all look really cool, but you don't want to commit. Some people say it's like, you can't decide. I think it's more like you don't want to commit, and looking at all of these different choices and seeing them all kind of being vapory, like not even really substantial or real, I think they represent a lot of the distractions that we create for ourselves that keep us busy and keep us from looking at what we really want. And I would like to start with that. Like if I were to ask you, what is it you really want? Would you have an answer?
I think of sorts. I have a vision of where I want to be as far as geographically.
So where you live is what you really want?
No, but it's a tangent of the lifestyle, kind of living in a tropical beach, very relaxed, laid back lifestyle. I mean, you're asking me what I want, right? Do you mean what I want to be doing for
there's a point
a
to
living?
this. There's actually a point to this. I mean, it's not just a random like, hey, what do you want?
No, I figured. I figured.
The point to this being, and as this card illustrates, apparent choices abound, but are they really real? And do the choice is yours to attract to you what it is that you really want. But I think that like we get distracted with so many levels of other parts of living and putting our attention on everyone else's lives except our own, and looking at all of these different easy choices that pop up. And I mean, think about the million distractions just with the internet and the phone and that. I mean, there's very little time for actual real self-reflection and asking yourself what it is you really want. I had a conversation with somebody about 3 weeks ago, and it was kind of an intense issue, and I was like, well, is that how you really feel about it? And they were like, well, now that you mention it, and they laid out kind of like a 3-pronged thing, right? Well, what's the top prong? Well, it's this. And then as we talked about it, they came to the realization that the one that they had on the top prong was really belonged at the bottom on the 3rd prong, and that one needed to shift. That was the thing that was really like crazy, right? And they were going to try to resolve this situation with another person, but had they gone into that with still having this false attachment to this illusion of what it was, and not really knowing what it is that you wanted. Like, there's asking what do you want out of life, but there's also asking what do you want out of a specific situation.
Right. And I think that's what I'm trying to figure out, what you're asking.
Well, I think that applies to all of those.
Okay.
Whether it's a small situation like somebody who's trying to reconnect with somebody and find a meeting of the minds, what you want out of that is not further conflict. What you really want is connection, understanding, and hearing. So on a small level, before you go into that, you've defined that as what you want. That's highly likely then, if you're sending that energy out, that's the energy you're going to retract back to you. And that will really happen rather than just repeating a cycle that has failed before again and again and again and again. So by changing that one part of it, rather than just going into it, I know there's a lot of people out there that say, oh man, you're supposed to just let that go, Raphael. we've gone round and round and round the block on this. You know, it's like, yeah, you're just supposed to let it go. Whatever's supposed to happen will happen. Well, I don't agree with that.
No, I mean,
And I think that if you really take some time to be honest with yourself about what you want and not just like treat it like well, what's going to make me feel good right now, but what's really good for me and what is
sure,
it I
sure,
really
sure, sure.
want and satisfies you, that's what you'll then attract to you, you know? And I
Yeah,
think that works on a small situation like that, but I also think that it works on
well, you know,
matching for what you want out of your life too.
yeah, you know, and again, the question is so multi-layered. Lewis is out there saying, I want to stop the wheel.
Yeah. Good
And you
luck.
know, yeah, I mean, you know, there are certain things. I mean, I want to be happy, right? Obviously, that's something that I think is a basic thing, right? Some of the things that would make me happy. I'm in a relationship that makes me very happy. You know,
Making you happy and what you really want are two different things. Making you
okay,
happy is your superficial,
okay,
"Oh, yeah, I'm gratified, it's great."
okay,
What you really want is what do you want for your life? What
right,
do you want for your for that use of that beautiful, pure energy that is our peace of God?
right.
What is your use for that rather than
I
just
hear you.
gratification?
I hear you. I hear you. Do you want an answer, or you just put
If you
like?
have one, if you don't, that's
Well, I think I would like to. I would like to figure out how my being will help other people. Like, you know, I know that I have a certain vibration. I know that I have a certain effect on certain people, on some people. You know, um, I know that I have certain perceptions that I feel like a lot of general public people don't have, that help me rise above things I see other people struggling with, right? So I feel like I can help, but I want to help without, you know, I have a lot of friends who are healers and spiritual healers, right? And I don't want to feel like I'm approaching people saying, "Hey, you're broken." You know what I mean? I just want to um I just want to help people, you know? I mean, and figure out how to do that, you know, with my gifts, because I'm caught up in um you know, paying rent and a job and all of these kind of three-dimensional things, and I know that there's a way to combine that and be somebody who could help other people and allow that to be a vehicle towards, you know, not wealth necessarily, but, you know, whatever you need to sustain yourself, right? um so yeah, I would love to figure that out. I would love to figure out the answer to that, you know, if that answers the question.
okay. Well, yeah, there wasn't any right or wrong for sure, though.
Yeah, yeah, you know, I mean, you know, immediately what I said to you was about living on the beach. Like, that's how I picture, you know, I could picture myself being very happy, being able to walk out onto the beach, being able to have fresh pineapple for breakfast, you know what I mean, and fresh melon and fruit, and live that kind of tropical lifestyle. I feel like that is something I want, you know what I mean? So I think that's a part of the answer to the question. But anyway,
All right, let's continue on with the sevens because we
yeah,
got David waiting for us
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You,
in the
I asked.
back. So, you know, one of the things about the sevens across the board is that they can immediately be kind of perceived as sort of wobby cards. Like this card, like is illusion, you know, and that illusion and the feeling of crushing defeat after you've hitched your wagon to something that turns out to be a puff of smoke
Mhm.
is a really not good feeling. And you know, it has the kind of intensity with this card to really take that down and like, there's, kind of ending your life kind of depression that can happen with this at the most extremes of this card. And depending on what other cards are around in the spread, it would indicate how intense this is. But
Right.
It really is at the center of that. There at the very bottom, there is an actual real small cup. And that represents the reality in the midst of all of that craziness that, will move. Yeah. Right. This is a pretty nuts card. With each little section of it, there's like whole little movies that are going on within each one of those, like the two guys with the cup above the little small one, and keep going up the face that happens in between those cups. And, yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So the Seven of Wands, the seven really is considered a creative number. And like the Seven of Wands is like you're being attacked by all these other people, and it sort of requires a creative solution to come out of that and to maintain your superiority and not be defeated in that. In the Seven of Cups, it takes creativity to discern what it is you really want. There's a whole host of things on the list of things you want. What do you really want?
Right.
Getting to that takes creativity and your willingness to look inside yourself on the deepest level that you can and be honest with you. So that is a very, very emotional card. The wands, that's about the energy of the battle and the attack and figuring out a strategy for that. The Seven of Cups is about the emotions of that and attaching to those things that appear to be what you want or appear to be what you need, but in reality aren't. And then the Seven of Swords winds up being a card where it's like swords are being stolen. It really represents deceit and lies and kind of like that whole skullduggery going on behind the scenes and things not appearing as they seem. A lot of both the swords and the cups totally about things not being like what they seem. With the cups, it's your own emotions attaching to things you want. With the swords, it's somebody actually lying to you and feeding you bullshit and possible actual real thievery.
Right.
And then the seven of Pentacles. I love this card too, by the way.
Yep.
Then the Seven of Pentacles is this is kind of a tough card because it requires tenacity and a willingness to stay on stuff and to allow yourself to fail. This is the ultimate card for permission to suck, because this card is considered in a lot of decks, it's called failure. And what this represents are all the seven pentacles or the seven spheres represent each a time that you tried to make something happen and it got right to the edge and failed. And instead, and the key to this card is to stick with it and never give up. And that each of those failures, even though they are bitter to taste at the moment, come chock full of learning and information on how to do it better the next time. Yeah. So if you can maintain your will and not give up, and maintain your creativity and how you move forward the next time around, then you're destined to succeed. And the great thing about this card is when you do succeed, it's big. So I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. I hope that applies. A lot of the sevens apply to where I'm at right now and the week I've had. And I mean, I guess that's not surprising, right? We've been following the cards with our own lives.
Well, I'm waiting for you to tell me you've made the big move. You've made the big decision. Here's what you're going to do, man.
You know what? It's right there. Right there. I'm right there. This weekend was pretty significant, and I that's all I'll say on online. But I don't mean to jump in another direction, but I know you're excited too. And I asked our guest David to come on 5 minutes earlier of the show, and we were already like.
I told him the whole gig, dude. So.
Oh, okay, good. All right.
Yeah. I got a little. Yeah, I'm on it.
I just feel bad because I saw him standing there.
It's all good.
All right, so you want to do it? You want to do an introduction?
Yeah, I do. So I'm really super stoked to bring David out like this. David, I met through the meditation group that we have, and what's really crazy about that group, and the reason I've kind of adhered myself to it, is that everybody comes to that group with different roads of exploration. Like Satya comes to it with his yogi thing, but at the bottom of that, it's all about energy, and it's his exploration of how that energy is manifested in the way he moves that. But at the core of that, that's what he has come to understand.
Perfect.
This is all about as well. So, and pretty much everybody there expresses that same kind of viewpoint in their own specific, crazy creative way, which has just been amazing. David has been doing research in the biomechanics and the energetic mechanics inside the physical body for a long time, for 25, 30 years, and has been doing clinical research and actual with patient interaction, and has developed some great tools, and is in the middle of publishing a book, which I've really felt privileged to be scoping out the initial parts of that, and the outline is blowing my mind. I'm I can't wait to see the final thing come out. So without further ado, I would just with great pleasure like to introduce David Mumm.
Hello, David. Welcome to the show.
Hi there.
How you
doing, David?
Very well, very well. Good card. I mean, I see that's sevens that was talking to me also.
Yeah. Well, please elaborate.
That's really neat. Yeah.
So how were the sevens talking to you?
Well, I was, there was a lot of things, I was thinking about as you had that conversation, and it was the choice. Making a choice is so important, and intentionality and understanding willpower, which has kind of got squashed somewhere along the line, this idea that we do have willpower, that we do have a creative ability, and it rests in the power of choice, and the power of choice rests in a state of calmness, right? You can't, if you're in a reactive state, you don't make very good decisions. Right? You're not in that you're not centered in that place. But when you get centered and you look, there's always lots of choices, right, that we could make at any given time. We can go up, down, sideways. Even when we think, oh, I don't have any choice, but you have lots of choices.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and the way Brian was setting it up, as far as how everything kind of, the bottom baseline is this understanding of energy, right, and how it works. And even as you said, the word willpower, right? It's the power of your will. You know what I mean? And I guess my question or my comment to that would be, I'm pretty much aware of this whole structure, right? How that all works, but still I find myself probably not making the best choices, or having a like Brian was talking about, the fear of commitment, kind of not wanting to make the choice, even though I know I can make the choice and I can change my life. I know that without a doubt. I have no doubts about that. But for some reason, making those actual choices are my doubts come in, I guess, right? If I haven't made those choices yet.
Right. Oops.
Uh-oh. That happens to me all the time with this background.
Yeah.
The joy of live streaming.
Best moment in the whole season, man.
That's
That's fantastic.
I'm new in the Zoom game here.
It's all good. I got mine, and right behind there is my bed. So if
is that a real one, Mr. Zinn, or no?
What's that?
Is that a real set behind you, or is that a fake?
No, my bed is behind that little thing. So when
Michael's fell over a week or so ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, listen. So I gave him a little bit of a tidbit of what you do, but inform us how you got started on this road and exactly what you're doing and some of the techniques and research you're doing right now.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Well, it's been a long journey. I started out in undergraduate work in cognitive psychology, clinical psychology. I went to architecture school. I was kind of driven by a search for truth. And when I was in my undergraduate, I had some really good professors. I was a teaching assistant, had my own office in the psychology department, and had some fabulous courses in psycholinguistics and understanding of perception and theories, in particular, theories of personality. And at that time, I started formulating my own theories about things. And lo and behold, several decades later, it's starting to come to fruition in a really powerful way, because we have new science, new understanding of how the human mind, body, and spirit all work together. And in particular, how information flows in the body, right? And the flow of information that flows through the biological circuits, the biocircuits that gives us our experience, right? Our senses, what's happening out in the world, what's happening in our inner world, right? You're tuned into the inner world. A lot of us are tuned into the inner world as well as the outer world. And those are different. There are different pathways for that. There are different biological circuits for those. That kind of information to flow. So information is flowing through the mind, body, spirit system constantly, constant streams of information, streams of data that are coming in from multiple sources all the time. That's part of life. And it's interesting that in the biological textbooks, I was looking at it over at Cornell University, they don't really even talk about this in their molecular biology textbooks. How does information flow? Well, it is laid out, but you have to understand a new physics, which is better understanding of how water, light, and electricity actually work in the human body. And so most of the communication that happens is through photons. Biophotons are pieces of light, particles of light that allow us to communicate inside the body. So this has been a long journey, and I've been doing
That's
this.
That's a fantastic little piece of information there. You just brushed over. Right. Photons communicating in the body, dude.
Yep.
So I'm actually curious. So is that kind of saying that there is a light property to energy in a way? I mean,
yeah. Well, I did this deep dive recently, and what I found was really interesting. We know, I think most of us have a loose passing understanding of quantum physics. The atoms and electrons spinning around them, protons and like that, right? That basic model. Well, what I just learned is so stunning is that that an electron can become a photon, right? So a photon is a particle of light. It's some kind of this combination wave and particle of light. And when that electron turns into a photon, it spins out of the molecule and it carries the vibration, the information of its source, where it's coming from. So this is a basic mechanism of how all of reality is communicating with itself. In the forest, the shamans are picking up. Everything's communicating with everything all the time. It's quite noisy.
Wow, you're just bringing some cool images into my mind, because just imagining this light, because we don't obviously sense that light, right, and in our spectrum of vision, but I'm imagining if we could, what it would look like. That's kind of really cool.
Well,
I think we see it in the subtle lights. It's the same as chi. There's the chi and there's the heavenly light, the heavenly chi that comes down, and that light carries information.
Amazing.
Right, and we know that in there's computers that use light to communicate. I like to say the full that when God, God is translated that God said, "Let there be light." Probably more precisely, he said, "Let there be the full electromagnetic spectrum." Right? That's ranging from the ultra weak radio waves through all the visible rays, gamma waves, X-rays, scalar waves. Probably waves we don't know. Parts of reality is constructed out of these electromagnetic patterns. All of reality is electromagnetic patterns that we said the particles we see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you've been using this research that you've been working on to do some pretty crazy, amazing healing scenarios with patients and people that you've been seeing. You have any of those that kind of stick out that you wouldn't mind sharing?
Oh, I have lots of stories. I don't have patients. I'm not a doctor.
Well,
I'm not. This is really important because it comes to what you.
It is very important, and that was really wrong terminology that I used, and you've never put that forth as that. But you do. You have shared energy with people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the basic paradigm that I've created is right at, you put your finger right on it, which is in the medical paradigm, it's like, what's wrong with you and how are we going to fix you, right? I've created a paradigm I call biofitness, achieving biofitness, which is, positive health and wellness and practicing being the very best that you can be, right? By optimizing biological circuits, right? But that comes from a different philosophy, completely different philosophy, radically different philosophy. And we are so, it's beautiful the way you said it, because we all are so immersed and hypnotized by the medical paradigm. Right? So I found myself, in this writing having to do some dehypnosis, wake up, it's not all disease. Not everything is a disease, right? There's things that are chronic stress, and then there's human potential. There's what we can deliver. So when we come from the point of view of how great can it be for you, and what do you really want, right?
Exactly. What do you really want?
I think that's exactly what Wizard was trying to say to me earlier.
Exactly. So the desire, but how can we know what we really want when we have all these weird emotions that are running around? So the human body, it turns out we really process primarily with emotion, the emotional energy, the energy wave communication of emotion is what coordinates the entire body. And we always ask that, but how do you feel about that? How do you feel? Well,
you move your attention to the third band where there are no emotions and only information, then that works a lot better.
Right. Yeah. To get beyond that. Right. Dr. Siegel came up with a great one. He's a psychiatrist, and he referred to them as self-transcendent emotions. And they're so great when you get out of, the fear and the anger and the sadness and the guilt and the shame and the confusion, all that kind of stuff, right? Then you transcend, then you get to, then love starts to flow and you start to see the world that you're in, and you start to want to give to the world and enjoy the world and love the world, right? Self-transcend, and then you're outside of your own little head, right? And then life's a lot more fun that way. So I have a number of, using an advanced scientific model of how mind, body, and spirit really work. I have methods, very specific methods for dealing with some of these things. First one is rapid relax, 5 minutes, and it shifts you from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system. Transforming shame, the first one is creating courage. Creating courage, dissolving fear and anger is a powerful process. Fear is so big, it grabs us at so many levels. And then there's transforming shame into communion. That's one I'm most proud of. The map out of the trap. And there's a whole biophysics of shame and how shame actually lives in the body and is actually at one worse than fear. Ultimately, I could go into that, but
yeah, absolutely. So these are mental exercises
No, these are mind-body exercises. These are actual activities, actually facilitated processes.
Oh wow!
That transform, these states, these inner states. We have accelerated trauma reset and awakening the sleeping brain for concussions. We can reactivate circuits in an hour and restore functioning very quickly.
And are these like exercises you can do by yourself, or you need some like a therapist?
They're facilitated. I facilitate them in my biofitness clinic. They're facilitated
Oh
process.
yeah, let me pop that up here if you.
It's not a self-help thing, but there's things I teach
Gotcha.
people. We teach people rapid relax, and we do teach them how to do this eventually, ultimately. And in fact, I am now that you mention it, I'm planning to do classes again. My first career was in training and development, and I did a lot of training programs, corporate training and educational programs, teacher in services, and that kind of thing. So we're going to start, doing some Zoom classes and creating courage, dissolving fear and anger.
And are they classes in facilitating or classes in like the self-help, like you were saying?
Well, yeah, we take people actually through the process on the class, and at the same time, you learn things that are really helpful. I teach everybody how to do rapid relax. And if you want to do that any future time, we could teach people how to do rapid relax, because that shifting is so important, shifting states into the calm state so you can be centered and appreciate the joy and subtlety of life.
Awesome. Is something you want to do now?
I love leaving people with something tangible they can actually do and work on. So like anything like that you want to leave us with tonight, like we're ready to go.
Do something, huh?
Not put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, we love that.
I can come up with stuff. I don't know. Here's something really simple. To do a whole movement class, I need to have the thing. As you can see, my set needs a little work here. But concentration breath is one of my favorites. Are you familiar with concentration breath?
That'd be great.
Possibly, yeah. What is it?
Possibly. It's taking a deep breath and holding the breath.
Okay.
Do it 5 times, and what you do is called you're activating what's called the mammalian diving reflex, and it opens up blood supply to the executive cortex up here, where concentration, memory, decision-making, planning happens. And when we get that balance, get that blood flow up there, we become calmer and we think better.
And how long do you hold your breath for? Any particular length?
We're going to do it right now.
All right.
We go.
Awesome. Thank you.
It, and it's really fun, low-hanging fruit, great for your ADHDers. Get some blood up there. It's a lack of energy. Coming back to energy, there's not enough energy flowing up to the executive cortex, or there's an interruption of the information, and therefore it slows down the whole processing. So the mammalian diving reflex opens that up for about a half hour, and you'll feel it. That's like, when you dive. You ever gone deep diving, right, out in the ocean or in the pool, right? You hold your breath, and you can go in, and the body will be able to keep oxygen going for a while. Yeah, so with that, that's how we do it. So notice how you are and you're focused right now, right? Is your mind kind of bing, 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 or pretty calm and focused and in charge of your thoughts?
Yes, I would say.
All right. So what we do, I like to add finger mudras. You may be familiar with mudras, where you do finger positions, right? If you do your thumb, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So you start with thumb and first finger, right? Take a nice deep breath and hold that breath in through nose. Hold the breath for as long as you can comfortably, 10 or 15 seconds. When it starts to get uncomfortable, let it go. Then you can go to the next breath, next finger. Nice deep breath all the way in. Hold the breath. Very good. Third finger. Deep breath. Hold. And the pinky, thumb and pinky. Take a moment to be observing of yourself, and your processing, your inner state. So, Brian, how was that for you? What did you notice?
I have integrated so many different breathing patterns for different effects.
Yeah.
That I'm a real proponent of that, and just doing that like really does take you down like really fast, and it was very very quick and very useful and very like in that space. And if I was already in a pretty good place, so I didn't have like a really big distance to go to be in a pretty good zone. I mean, we started the show with Pratab in a pretty good zone,
Yeah.
So but that would be like, man, if you were in anxiety mode or before a meeting or anything that was causing you that kind of intensity and anxiety, pre-game show anxiety or whatever, it would really be a very helpful exercise. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
How about you, Michael?
I am huge fan of breathing, especially like that, a nice long breath, a hold, a release. I actually like adding the mudras to that. I felt like that actually helped me focus a little bit or something. I don't know what it was. It felt like it was adding something.
Yeah. It connects up into what's called the homunculus at the top here, and it's integrating. It helps to integrate different layers of the brain.
So I mean, that's perfect, and like you said, super easy to do. I noticed, I've got a question. I noticed as myself in general, right? So I've always been told, like, you have this calming presence, this, that, the other thing. And I noticed with my breathing specifically, especially like I noticed this with my girlfriend when I'm like laying with my girlfriend, I take probably one breath to like 2 or 3 of her breath cycles. So like I take very long breaths. I mean, is that a person related to personality or?
Well, I think that's a sign of calmness. In the Vedas, sometimes they say that you have so many breaths in a lifetime, so slowing them down like nice and slow.
So that means I'm going to live longer, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of calmness. When you can take long deep breaths, is when you've been meditating a lot, your whole system can shift and it kind of operates from there. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I really see, for me, the key to meditation is that understanding how to focus on your breath and just kind of follow it inside.
Your original kind of goal for this was, at least for the book, as I understand it, was really kind of almost a medical textbook for professionals to get exposed to some information that they probably haven't seen or been exposed to. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of science out there that's just not integrated and that people don't know. And really, we're still kind of caught in the Cartesian mind-body split, in the universities. The language that's used, the doctors and the model that they have, even though they go into more and more microscopic things, they're not so good at integrating the whole of how it all works together, right? And so there's a very, kind of an ancient model, a 19th century model that people have in their heads of the way it works, And so what I've done in the last 8 months and doing a deep dive, a lot of time in the library, is uncovered a science-based model, that it helps to understand how all this information flows, how water works in the body, how the spine works. I think water is one of the most stunning things. The 4th phase of water. Dr. Pollack's work, he discovered that water will go into a liquid crystalline state. And if you look under a micro photograph, you'll see that around the DNA and around the neurons are spirals of crystals, water crystals. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And they're structural, and they're also they're self-cleansing when the water goes into that state, and it's the living water state. The living water state, when water tumbles through nature down the stream like that, it self-cleanses, it purifies itself when it goes into this liquid crystalline state. And in that liquid crystalline state, it's also much more conductive of electricity. And so it turns out that everything is surrounded by water in the body. All the nerves have water around them. You know, we think of the spinal column, right? That old idea of, you know, the skeleton and the spine, but actually the spine is inside water. It's in a canal. It's the spinal canal, and the entire brain is completely encased in water. It's called cerebral spinal fluid, which is the most highly electrodynamic fluid in the whole body. It's absolutely amazing, and it keeps the brain's shape. It feeds the brain, and actually is the super information highway, connecting all the lobes of brain with liquid, and photons and electrons go spinning through there, and movement cycles. It's quite amazing. And so that spine, you know, there's right up here for those meditators up there, right? There's a light that comes down through, comes right into here, into what's called the cave of Brahma, and lights up the liquid crystalline water that's in the spinal canal, right? And so it goes through the whole body, goes down, that light that comes in. When you meditate, that inner light goes into the spinal canal, and then it's the entire and gets spread throughout the entire body. Just quite amazing. Wonderful video by Dr. Zapatera on this. He got his PhD at Harvard on cerebral spinal fluid, and he's a meditator. And I told Pratiti about this, and we got quite excited. Like, it's, you know, really advances the understanding of how things work at that level.
Wow. So, Brian, we were talking about cymatics, and you were actually talking about earlier putting water in the bowls, right? And the patterns that they make when you're
Right.
doing a certain frequency.
Everything's waves.
so yeah, I mean that would really make a lot of sense. And I've always thought of this too. The vibrations of the sound, and you're feeling it, is really, you're moving the molecules of water inside of you, right? I mean, you're really, and communicating that frequency throughout your being.
Well, like the bowls are moving everything in you.
Yeah.
The bowls are, you hear the bowls in your bones before you hear them in your ears.
Yeah.
You know, you're not really registering the sound before you're already feeling it inside and in the structure of your bones, you know, which is really amazing.
Well, you're feeling in your 2/3 water. You know, if you weigh 150 pounds, you're 100 pounds of water.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Which is the most programmable substance there is.
Well, it's also an interesting comparison, because I do feel like when you're listening to the bowls, especially, I mean, sound in general, but the bowls especially, it's like you're being bathed in sound. So it's almost like you're submersed in the sound as if you were submersed in water, right?
That's true.
It's a very similar feeling. Yeah. It's awesome. I love it.
Somehow we've managed to run through the entire hour once again.
Holy moly, we haven't even barely scratched the surface, I don't feel like.
And I would love to just, you know, now, like, you know, let's plan 3 or 4 more shows, and I love getting this information out.
David, you know, you're certainly welcome back if you have the time to come and talk about this some more. And you know, I know I have a million questions. I can prepare questions even, you know, now that I'm kind of a little more
and if we can talk about, if you'd like me to teach, you know, teach some of the rapid reaction, some of the methods there, happy to do that.
I think we would love that. I think that would be perfect. Lori was doing a retreat. She did a sound healing, and I love that sound healing in general is becoming more and more popular. And people are starting to, you know, see.
We have a sound healer in our audience.
Yes, we have Pratiti and Prata there. Hello, how you guys doing? Sitting in the background. You wanna play us out?
With the bowls?
Sure.
What do you want? A minute, 2 minutes?
Yeah, a couple minutes. That'd be great.
Yeah, just a couple minutes. That would be great. Awesome.
Thank
David,
you,
thank you
David.
so much.
I'll see you on
Thank you so much
Friday.
for, yeah.
It's been fun. Been fun,
And,
guys.
I'm just going to mute everybody so we can enjoy the sounds. And
And
David,
I'll see everybody next week.
yeah,
Peace.
feel free to leave if you want. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna put Pata in the front. So we'll see everybody next week, and do your thing. Thank you so much for joining us, Pata. We appreciate it.
Thanks again, Pratap.